Hello, my name is Rebecca, and I'm going to take a stab at something new here where I'm just going to ad-lib talk about 10 books in no particular order. These are 10 books that they're like my favorites, they're recent reads, they stand out to me for whatever reason, and they're not by any means like a comprehensive, like these are the 10 books of all time that are like the best and you should go read. No, these are just like the 10 books that I think are worth reading if you're an avid reader of fiction, fantasy. What's in the stack here? Fiction, fantasy, dark fantasy, high fantasy. I'm very boring in my genre choices for this video, unfortunately. I did do a previous draft where I incorporated like cookbooks and like history textbooks that I thought were very like stand out to me, and then I realized that you guys, well, I don't know if the internet wants to hear about that. If they do, great, I can talk about those, but perhaps another time. So without further ado, let's get started. Number one, I was fortunate enough to meet this author when they came down to Vancouver, and I think they're known to be a little bit on the reclusive side, is Patrick Rothfuss, Name of the Wind. Terrific series. Mine has the sprayed edges, and I was super bummed when it came out in the news that the project to make this into like I think it was going to be a movie or a TV series, and Lin-Manuel Miranda was going to do the soundtrack, isn't going to happen anymore apparently. Super soul crushing, and I'm sure it was to Pat too. He's a really sweet guy, and I really feel for him, and I really hope that the last book happens. I know there's another book by him coming out, I think in November, which that's its own subject matter. If you guys want me to do a video where I just talk about books coming out in November, there are many of them. I think like 7 or 8, and it's more than I can read in a month, but I will try my darndest. So anyways, Name of the Wind, Bildungsroman, high fantasy, very little to no spice, but just beautifully written. Pat is a very lyrical writer, and I had so much fun getting lost in this world, and I don't reread books terribly often, but when I do, it's usually this and The Wise Man's Fear for me. So, Name of the Wind. Next up is Jay Kristoff's Empire the Vampire. Mine is Indigo exclusive, so it is signed by the author. And he's super active on Instagram, so like if you go on there and you DM him and be like, you're awesome, or like you're looking forward to your next book, whatever, he will get back to you very quickly. I think he's from Australia, a super talented writer. Again, this book actually is a little bit like Name of the Wind in that it takes the perspective of a character who is narrating to a chronicler who is writing out their story. It's not over the course of 3 days though. It's over a much longer period of time. It is heartbreaking. I'm very excited for Empire of the Damned coming out, I think in the new year. And this is actually, it's illustrated, not for kids. There are some very spicy scenes in it. There's full LGBTQ representation, done very well, and yeah, that's all I'll say about this one. If you're looking for dark fantasy, go for this. Super great. Also, it's about vampires, if you couldn't infer that. Okay, moving on. One philosophy book. So this is like my one substantial book I'm going to talk about in this video. And if you guys want me to do a video where I talk about philosophy, history, cookbooks, anything non-fiction, I am more than happy to do that as well. So Lessons in Stoicism by John Solaris. Very short. You can read it in an afternoon. Gives you the thoughts of like Marcus Aurelius, Diogenes, Seneca, and it breaks them down in a very easy to access way that is just like makes you feel smart. I've got a bit of a background in philosophy, having taken some of it at my previous university that I went to, as well as in high school, but you don't need that to understand what Solaris is pointing out. Do I consider myself a Stoic? Not really, maybe a little bit. Maybe identify with some of the thoughts given to us by like Seneca or Diogenes. Marcus Aurelius maybe to an extent, but like I found Stoicism to be a little bit problematic in that I do feel it is a philosophy of like the privileged 1%, where they're essentially telling the masses like think it's Marcus Aurelius, right, Roman emperor, telling his people like just kind of be content and don't rock the boat, yo. Let things wash over you. Don't get emotionally worked up about, it's life, right? Pick your battles. Glean from that what you may. I do think that if you are trying to round out your library on philosophy and you want to add a little something in there about the Stoics and Stoicism, this is your bet. It's Penguin Random House. Anytime Penguin's got their name on something, it's going to be a certain quality, so highly recommend. Moving on, Robin Hobb, Assassin's Apprentice. My edition happens to be like a collector's one that's fully illustrated with like color illustrations. It's beautiful. You'll find that when I'm reviewing a lot of my books, I tend to gravitate towards like the Bildungsroman, hero narrative, chosen one in my fantasy. This is, no exception. It does follow those patterns and premises. The main character can like speak with animals, which is super cool. There's no spice in it. It's high fantasy. It's a little heavier. It's if you're in your teens, early 20s, and you're reading something like this, you're gonna enjoy it. It's already to your taste. But it is long. It's a 3-part series. I have the other 2. I keep not knowing where I'm pointing. It's behind me. Yeah, highly recommend. Next up, Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. I sprung for the Nerdy Ink custom jackets for my series, and it took me forever to read this book. Not because I didn't like it. I adored it, and I'm not going to drop any major spoilers about things that happen where people die, but they happened and people died, and I had to go for a walk. I had to talk to my husband. I had to cry because it felt like I lost some really good friends, and I'm already tearing up because I'm like, oh, I know, it's sad. But this is a terrific book. It follows the what was supposed to be the concluding arc for Aelin, and now we're in this lovely world where is Aelin's story over? Says Sarah J. Maas in an interview, and now we're all looking at the next Crescent City book going, oh, portals. That's all I'm going to say. Another Sarah J. Maas book. What should be, or I think is, the most recent installment. Not the last, but it's the most recent one. Again, I don't think I'm spoiling too much by saying Crescent City is picking up on where this story might be leaving off, might not be. It might be a completely different timeline. Who knows? Main point is we're not done with these characters yet. We're not done with Nesta. We're not done with Cassian. We're not done with Azriel, Rysand, all them. They're up and about in all of Maas's books now, and we're getting them all blended together. It's wonderful. I'm here for the multiverse madness. But I'm also a little bit frustrated because of the series that Maas has done of Throne of Glass, Court of Thorns, and then Crescent City now. I actually really didn't like Crescent City as much as I've enjoyed the other 2. Kind of a bit of a taboo to say, but it's true. I just don't, the time period with the kind of cyberpunky elements to it just don't do it for me. If I'm reading fantasy, I want elves and fairies and magic, and I want to forget about the guns and the motorcycles, and I don't know. Each person their own. This book series, fantastic. Highly recommend. Very spicy, not for kids. That's all I'm going to say. Moving on the topics of very spicy, not for kids. It's a book that I've thoroughly annotated. And I'm in the process of thoroughly annotating. I'm about halfway in right now. And I'm going to be doing, I think, a Red Letter Media style half in the bag, where I just unpack what's going on here. Is Haunting Adeline by, I think her name's Haley Carlton. H.D. Carlton, cat and mouse duet. It's I can't tell if it's so bad it's good or if it's great, and I'm just a walking red flag apparently. I don't know. Very not for kids. Not even for teenagers. Adults only. Incredibly spicy. Self-published. Which, not to hold that against it at all. I've read several self-published books at this point, and if you guys want, I can do a video where I just discuss different self-published authors, because I do advocate And I do believe that if you've written a book and you've gone through the efforts of like reading and editing and peer reviewing something that is, you know, look at this, it's like over 600 pages long, and you believe that what you've written is worth reading, like make it so, right? Get out there and publish your own work. You'll find that there's going to be an audience for it. Whether or not it's like a huge audience, that's to be determined, and, you know, obviously what effort you put into it, you'll get out of it. But, like, there are so many wonderful self-published authors out there, and so many people that are so approachable and so friendly in the community. I know on Instagram there's the Bibliophile Blonde, who's written a couple books, also a terrific author. I don't own any physical copies of Molly's work, but Amelia Hutchins, again, another super approachable, very friendly authoress who's done, like, again, very spicy, not for kids books, but, like, these authors have huge followings, and, you know, they didn't do it through the aid of, like, a major publishing house. They did it on their own. And that's all I'll say on that is, you know, if you have the gumption in the way to write your own, you know, stand by your work, and, you know, maybe it pays off, maybe it doesn't, but, you know, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Next up, Travis Baldry, Legends and Lattes, very comforting. Like, I had a friend in my cohort, and he was like, you need to read this book. And I was like, okay. So I went and I read it. And it's so cute, and it's so calming. And it's one of those pieces where it makes you want to go run off into, like, a small town, set up your coffee shop. The sequel to this, also coming out in November, Bookshops and Bone Dust. I think is going to have a very, very similar vibe to it, where you're just looking to get lost in something for like a couple days. I think this one took me 3 to read. This is where you start. Also big for Dungeons and Dragons fans. It's, you know, if you're ever wondering what happens to my warlock, whatever, level 20 when we finish the campaign, probably this. If you have a peaceful mind, or maybe it's something like Haunting Adeline. I don't know, but moving on. This one is for kids, and I think it's the only one in this stack that I would say that of. Dungeon Club, for Dungeons and Dragons fans, you can see, like, boom, there's the branding. It's got the blessings of Matthew Mercer, Kat Lee, and Brendan Lee Mulligan. Also Tim Probert, and Andy Stevenson. I don't know who those last 2 people are, but this book is super fun. It is about friendship and playing a game and the power of imagination, and it was just so fun to get lost in for a little bit. I remember I got a little emotional being like, man, where was this when I was in high school? Where was this when I was, like, playing these really nerdy games and getting made fun of for being a girl that like played video games? Like, it was just, yeah. So this was a joy to read. The art and illustrations inside are, like, super beautiful. They're on high quality glossy paper. It smells great, if that means something. I've also written on a thing that just told it that it's an example of burst perfect binding. And then if you actually look at, like, the hardcover of it, it's just, like, you know, money's been put into this book, and rightfully so. It is just, it's heartwarming, and it is for that certain age demographic that knows from experience. Middle school and high school, they suck. But you know what's great? The friends you make along the way. So, next and last is the book that I have one other video on. It's a review on, Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This book is an absolute joy. If you like the fantasy, bit of spice, Chosen One narratives, Hunger Games meets, I don't know, How to Train Your Dragon. I promise it's not like that cheesy. Like, there's no, like, hiccup and moments of that, but in a way it kind of is. So I won't get into any spoilers on this too much, because it did come out in May, and y'all, the hype around this book is real. Like, it came out in May. It is now July. People are still struggling to find copies of it. I can't get the sprayed edge one to save my life, and I'm not willing to spend the $300 to get one. As well, important to note, Rebecca Yarros, there was some controversy for some people that were a little bit upset about, you know, religion and tithing, and whether or not this book is supporting a religious cause of any particular sort. She did go public and said, no, this book is not being tithed. So if that's important to you, there you go. And yeah, it's just, super fun, and I had a lot of laughs and a lot of good times reading it. And if you are more interested in what I thought about it, check my other video out. It is very rushed and panicky, which is why I'm doing this video now. So that's all I have to say about those. Again, they're not like my top 10. They're just 10 books that I really liked. They're not in any particular order. If you would like me to rack my brain and try and find 10, I can come up with 10, but I guarantee that'll change like so quickly. Like, I read something, I tend to get very excited about it and want to share it with people. So that's all I gotta say. Thanks for your time.